Did it go yet? Oh, fuck. Hey, guys, this is Ryan down here at Carter Family. We have luxury ADUs and Carter Family that we are getting out there to the world right now. We've got a lot of really exciting things happening. And so thanks for checking us out. I appreciate it.
So, Ryan, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so in terms of like a family life, it was kind of interesting for me, and I think that that's a part of my story. So kind of get to know me a little bit. I was kind of one of those underdog stories, kind of a come from behind win. I was a young man. We lived in Utah, and everything was great for the first 6 years of my life. My father passed away at 6 years old on the job site. And I think that was a big turning point for my whole family. My dad was worked on the railroad, and he made great money. You know, we had plenty of funding and plenty of good stuff coming into our lives. Christmases were great, holidays were great. You know, Dad would always come home with a with a little grab bag, and it was great. It was your normal everyday life, you know, for young people, and it was just your average American dream. You know, my mom stayed home. It was a good life. And then my dad passed away at 6 years old on the job, and that kind of changed everything for me. My mom, from there, I think she got sad, started drinking a lot. And then I think she just needed to change of pace, so she moved us all out to Oregon. And then from there, she drank a lot. I love her to death, but it's, you know, it just is what kind of happens, I think, sometimes with grief. And so we lived in a split level housing. So my mom and her new stepdad or new husband was up on the upper side, and then all of us kids were downstairs. So we have 4 kids who are dealing with a bunch of trauma, just lost their dad, and we're trying to figure out the world, trying to make the best of it. So with that, we got into a lot of mischief, a lot of trouble. And I ended up, just along the way, we didn't have great leadership. So we tend to get ourselves in trouble. I mean, gosh, I remember being 12 years old and being gone for 3-4 days and having, nobody know where I was, and nobody even cared to check. So I remember that. And then around in 1999, I was hanging out with a guy. He stole a bike, and I didn't tell on him. And because I didn't tell on him, I got probation. And then a few months later down the road, I was goofing off with a gal at school with a lighter and her thermals, and all the lint on her arm just went up. So I put it out really quick. Nobody even really seen it, but it was enough to get me expelled and then locked up. They gave me a choice between detention center for 30 days or go to this program. It was a year-long program, a place called Pathways, and it was to kind of teach you skills, and it was actually set up as an addiction program, which I was young. I didn't really have too much of a problem with that, you know, experiment and things. But I didn't feel like I had a real big problem with the addiction side, but I wanted the skills. So even being young, I think I was 14 at the time, I made the decision to go into this program. So we did the program. We came out on the day of my graduation. I guess my mother and her stepdad refused to get rid of the alcohol in the house for the on-site visits. So my program counselor came up to me at the end of the ceremony, said, "Hey, great job, graduated with honors, everything's going great. You don't get to go home." I said, "What do you mean I don't get to go home?" And so I wasn't able to go home. A gentleman stepped up that I didn't even know, said, "I'll take him." We went home with him, lived our life out for a few years that way. I got emancipated at 15, first guy in Oregon to do it that way, that young. And then I decided to have children at 16 years old. So that was kind of an interesting decision, and I think a lot of people would look back at that and think that maybe that was a bad decision. But for me, I was so alone and just growing up without, just didn't feel like you had anybody, you know, just being, parents are gone, mom's dealing with her stuff, dad's passed away, brothers are assholes, Sister, she ended up passing away when I was in the program. She died at 15. And so I started a family, and it made me feel like I had somebody, to kind of start my own family. So this family's broken and kind of sucks, so let's start a new one. And we did that. Bless my daughters. I love them so much. Carly and Kyla, they're incredible to me. They're my whole motivation as a young man to try to become better, try to do more for myself. And that really is what ties us into the construction. When you have a young man who's determined. I had a chip on my shoulder from my dad passing away, and so I started my construction career very, very early. At 15, I started my construction career just making $5 an hour under the table, and then rolled into full-time W-2 employment, set and tile, and then kind of, for me, I spent a couple years in different trades. So time with tile and stone, landscaping, digging ditches, concrete, some roofing, framing, all the different areas, and then now we're kind of bringing it all together. We've done, we had 5-6 years of the flips when that was really popular. We had, we've done new builds, and now what we're really focused on right now is the accessory dwelling units. So I think that's that's really where our focus is right now, and it's been a lifelong development.
How did your journey lead to you to focus on ADUs?
Okay, that's a great question. So for me, again, like we grew up, we had a great life when my dad was here. And then after my dad died, we were just very poor. So, I mean, very poor, like holes in my shoes, lights are sometimes off, sometimes on. Even as an adult, I've had my lights on and off because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I've just went after it, just I put everything into my businesses all the time. Anybody who's around me knows that. They can see it. It's from the minute my eyes open to the minute my eyes close, it's all business. I'm just pushing, and I continue to put everything into it. And so coming from a background of low funding and not having a lot of access to capital, I think that's really kind of what gears me and draws me to the ADUs. It's a very affordable way to live. It's a very affordable way to live. So you have, your standard home right now, $500,000-$600,000 is the median price. That's to me that's crazy for a young person. So you look at a young person today who is working a normal job. Let's say they even have a good job. They've got a good quality job, and they thank you, Josh. We're gonna get this figured out. We're new at this, so we'll get it dialed in. But you've got a young person with a good quality job who is making great money, and they go to do $500,000-$600,000 home. I mean, gosh, they're looking at $3,000-$4,000 a month. So all their money goes to housing. That's crazy. So I've got the daughters I spoke about with Carly and Kyla. They are now 21 and 22 years old. They're looking at housing. They're trying to figure things out. And so for me, just hope. I mean, as a young person, when you're going through those trials and tribulations and things aren't going right and things are kind of going sideways, for me, I clung to hope. Like I remember being a young man and just going to the car dealership, just broke at dark, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the evening when I knew nobody was there. You just drive down and you just sit and look at the cool cars and just think, just one day, we're going to get there one day. We got this. And just, that's one thing I felt like I've always had is the ability, and everybody who's around me says that, like I'm very positive. I look at any situation and I try to find a way to win and try to find a way to just see the victory in it and the beauty in it and the love that God has for us. I think I'm really good at that, trying to stay focused on being positive, being excited. And so clinging on to hope is really what's got me through most hard times in my life. And when I think about housing, I think there's a lot of people out there that are just completely hopeless. I think they look at the situation, they look at our climate, the housing climate, and they think, there's no way. There's no way that I can pull it off. There's no way that I can get a house. And I meet people every single day that want to help their kids get into a place just like I do, or they have a place they need for their grandma, or for their grandfather, or for their mother, for their father. And this is a great option for them. I think it gets it to an affordable point. So $150,000 for an ADU, you're looking at $800-900 a month. So it's very doable, and that's really what draws me to it. And my path, just coming from poverty and coming from a place of just no resources, and really a lot of people around me were very hopeless. A lot of people around me just really didn't have a lot of hope, and I think that's what got me through, was the hope. So if I could give anybody a little bit of hope, then to help them push through their day and to make their day a little bit brighter, and to say, hey, we can make it somewhere, we can get somewhere sometime, one day. I think that's really what motivates me towards this. It's not, there's really, at $150,000, there's not a ton of money in it. I mean, there's some money, there's a little bit of profit, but it's not huge margins. And we could charge more. There's lots of other people out there that are charging more. But again, I'm very, very passionate about extending an opportunity to people that need it.
How would you describe your mission or philosophy when it comes to housing and community development?
So I think as a culture, we've got a few things backwards. So, and we've actually got really big plans that are going to lean into this as a little bit later in the future. So I've always been a visionary. So one of the things that I'm hoping to do is, from a cultural standpoint, I'm hoping that I can take the resources that we acquire over the next few years and then roll that back into a 3D printed model. So I think with the materials that we build with today are not optimal. I think, and this is actually a big problem. A lot of what's in our landfills is from construction. A huge, staggering amount. I don't have the exact number, so I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to say mistruths. But a staggering amount of our landfills is full of construction material. So remodels or just demolition. So for me, if we could change the culture of what a home is, I think that, unfortunately, I think there's so many ways that people make the home more expensive than it needs to be. So with over complex designs, every time you have a corner, every time you have a wall, every time you add anything at all to the design, you add money. And every time you add money, you add more working weeks that you have to work to pay the bill. So I think that people need to wrap our minds around that. Like, I think that's a really big portion, is like, you've got your lot, you've got your permits and your costs that we can't get around, but then there's a lot of responsibility that can be took in terms of how we build these things. So simplicity, I think, can bring the cost down. So as a culture, at least in America, we could live a little simpler, and I think that would bring the cost down. But then also, to the point of the printers, it's $600 in cement and sand, and I can print you a house every day. Every 24 hours, I can print a 3,000 square foot house. So I think once we can get to that point, and that's the long-term vision, once we can get to that point of printing the houses, that's where I, as a philanthropist or humanitarian, I can step in and set that price. So if it costs me $25,000-$30,000 to build the 3D printed concrete home, then I can sell it for $50,000. I can sell it for $60,000, right? So then I can be an industry disruptor, which is the goal. That is the game plan. So is to be an industry disruptor and literally change the way we build houses. I think that what we're doing now is unsustainable. I think in lots of different ways, in terms of the materials, in terms of how long they last. Homes last 100 years. That's not a very long period of time. So by the time someone pays it off, if you don't maintain it properly, it's worn out. It seems like a cycle. It seems like a hamster wheel to me. So another benefit to the concrete printed homes is they'll last forever. They'll be sustainable. They'll be rot proof, mold proof, waterproof. I mean, there's really nothing that can go wrong with just cement walls. So, and the outside stucco, the inside's plaster, the floor is those epoxy floors that people see. And there'll be some similar amenities like the countertops and the cabinets and the bathrooms. Those will all be kind of similar. But it's just a new way of building to where we can get the cost a lot lower. Because I have a passion for people who have a passion for getting people out of the slavery of work. This W-2 life where everyone is just at work all the time. I think it's not healthy, and I don't think it's good. And I think that with a little bit of guidance and some small tweaks, and some good people in the world that's not greedy, I think we can make some big changes. So I'm here for it.
For people who may not be familiar, what exactly is an ADU?
So an ADU stands for accessory dwelling unit. Short and sweet, it's a second home in your backyard. So it's the city has opened up the opportunity to build a second home in your backyard. So if you're an investor, you can double all your doors, real short and sweet, right now. Within 12 weeks, we can build you a second house in your backyard. So if you have the space, and it doesn't even have to be, it could be detached or it could be attached. So you could take an existing structure and turn it into a duplex just that fast. So that's one thing that you can do with an ADU, or you could do a detached ADU, say back in the back corner of the property. You could build a different structure. And like I've seen folks who have alley access who use that as their access and rent that out, either a short term or a long term. But it's basically just it's a space that someone can live in, either short term like an Airbnb, or or long term in like a long term rental.
What are the main benefits of building an ADU?
So this is actually one of the things that's really super exciting about the ADUs. So this is what I get just absolutely on fire about, especially coming from a guy who came from poverty my whole life. I'm going to hand you $2 million, and all you're going to have to do is sign here. And of course, you're going to have to deal with the choices on the design and working with all of our designers and working with our team to build it all. Of course, you're going to have to deal with that. But within 12 weeks, for a signature and some funding, you're going to have a lifetime of value. You're going to have, so let's say it's $150,000 for the ADU. You're going to get probably around $250,000 to $300,000 in equity, just right off the bat. Boom. Okay. If you go the safe way and you go long-term rental, $15,000 to $2,000 a month, every month, right? If you take a little bit more risk, you go short-term rental, Airbnb, you go up to $6,000 a month. Okay. That's great. So if you go on the lowest end, the $1,500 a month, the lowest end, nothing else, just the lowest. First of all, you can cash out $300,000 right off the top. Boom. So if you need to make a quick $150,000, we can make it happen for you. Come in, sign the paperwork, get it done, pay the deposit. We build it in 12 weeks. You've got instant equity. You can then pull that equity out. Do it again. Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. If that's the way you want to do it. Okay? That's just on the front side. Boom. So you get liquid capital, $150,000 liquid capital. Boom. Then you got your monthly. On the low end, the safe side, the low end, $1,500 a month. You average that out over the lifespan of the unit, and you're looking at about 100 years for a structure. You're looking at $2 million. So for a signature and being bold enough to pull the trigger, you get $150,000 in upfront equity on top of what you paid. You get $1,500 to probably $6,000 if it was short term a month. And then on the absolute low end, you're looking at $2 million in lifetime value for yourself, for your family, for your kids, for whatever. So to me, I'm a very intelligent man. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's just a very, very simple decision. It's a small inconvenience in your backyard. And there's ways that you can do this to where it's more private. We can fence off like a walkway. We can fence off their own little backyard with nice wood. You wouldn't even have to see them. Your yard just would get a little bit smaller, but your family would become multimillionaires. I think it's a fair trade-off.
What are some common misconceptions people have about ADUs?
I would say the most common misconception about ADUs is the people think they come on wheels. So I think some people think it's a tiny house, that it's on wheels, that it's not permitted. I think those are the most common misconceptions. But I think that's probably by far the biggest, and it's expensive. I think a lot of people think that this process is going to cost $200,000-$300,000, and the program that we've put together, because we're passionate about housing, because we're passionate about being affordable, We've built these things for $150,000. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's accessible to everyone.
What are the biggest challenges homeowners face when trying to build an ADU?
For me, well, I would say that probably the hardest part about the whole process is finding someone that you really want to work with. So, like for me, the first meeting when we get together, my first meeting with you is going to be no notebooks, nothing like that. It's just going to be me and you getting to know one another. And then after we get to know one another, then we'll decide if we want to work together. And I think that's the hardest part. So as a consumer, I want to know that my money's safe. I want to know that we're working with someone who knows what's going on, that I'm working with an expert in the field. I want to know that they're happy to be there. I think that's an important portion. And so I think that would be the hardest part, is having a good team and a good connection. I think that's probably the biggest thing. The second biggest struggle, which is really, we don't really have a say in this, so I kind of leave it off, is the permits and the county and all those things. So getting through that aspect of it, the legislation, the bureaucracy of it, I think that's the kind of the biggest hurdle. And then the placement. So where do we want to put it? So if you've got a tight backyard, that's going to become, we're going to have a challenge there we're going to have to get over. If you've got no backyard, we're going to have to figure that out. So, but we've done them in basements. So we've turned a basement into an accessory dwelling unit, and it can legally be that. You have your own water, your own power, your own entrance, and you can rent that out. So for me, I think it fits best for either the micro investor who is looking to have more doors and more income, or I think for the multi-generational. So for me, when I look at it just as Ryan Harris from a consumer standpoint, I would either put it on a property that I had as an investment that I was expecting revenue from, or I would have it there as multi-generational. So if I have a mom or a dad that might be on the elder ages, who are approaching the age for they need care, I think that was where I would kind of lean into it. Or if I had young children who were needing their own space, maybe they're considering having children. I mean, we can build these I have 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. I mean, we can. These aren't trailers, so we can build them to different specs. So you got a young family, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. We've got we've got an elderly couple. Maybe we do a nice big bedroom, a game room, or like my mother used to do stained glass. So before she passed away, I think you have an activity area. That might be nice. So that's where I look at it from that perspective as a consumer, is either multi-generational or the micro investor. So shoot, guys. I mean, for me, I just wanted to get to know me a little bit, I guess. I've been doing this business for a long time. It's always been a dream of mine to build houses. My whole life, I've clung to that. I've clung onto the hope to build houses. I've clung onto the hope to try to get somewhere, to be somebody, to make my parents proud. My mother passed away when I was 25. I held her hand on her last gurgling breath. And I wanted her to be proud of me. I want my kids to be proud of me, and I want my clients to be proud of me. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love what I do. I think it's such a blessing. I feel so honored that I'm even able to do this, that I'm even here. I feel very, very blessed. So you're literally watching my dreams. You're watching a little boy who never gave up, kept going, and now here we are with a multi-million-dollar business. We bring in multi-millions of dollars in revenue every year. I don't say that to brag. I came from absolute trash, and to see where we are now it's such a dream come true. So that's the embodiment that I hope that anybody will see from any of my team or any projects that I'm involved in, is that I want every person there to truly understand we're living our dreams, and we're living our dreams because people trust us. So thank you for your trust in us. I appreciate giving the opportunity, even just hearing me out and getting a chance to introduce myself. So thank you guys. I hope you have a beautiful day.